George Jefferson thinks he's finally done it. The years of scraping, hustling, and dreaming have turned into a new address, a new view, and a brand new story he can tell himself about who he is now. He's leaving the old neighborhood with Louise beside him. And even though goodbyes are awkward, there's a surprising tenderness in the air because, for all the bickering and rivalry, the people next door have been part of their daily lives. Louise is emotional, Archie is oddly invested, and even George, who doesn't like to show softness, can't completely hide that something about leaving feels heavier than he expected. He talks big because that's how he protects himself. He calls it moving up. He calls it becoming fancy. He frames it like a victory march. But Louise hears another meaning underneath. Moving up also means walking into rooms where you don't know the rules, and that scares her more than she wants to admit. George's philosophy is simple and blunt. Money is what makes you belong. Louise worries that belonging isn't that easy, and George shuts down the worry the way he shuts down everything, by declaring that he's the one who thinks and everyone else should just follow. He's already picturing the future like a business plan. Third store, fourth store, then more. He's talking about banks, loans, and the kind of networking that sounds glamorous when you say it fast. Louise hears the word loan and gets confused. If they're doing so well, why borrow? George gives her a lesson in how he thinks rich people operate. The bank isn't there for need, it's there for leverage. He's not just moving apartments. He's trying to move identities. When they arrive, the new place is everything George wants it to be. Impressive, spacious, filled with signals that say you made it. The most emotional moment of the whole tour isn't even the view, it's the bathrooms. George counts them like trophies, celebrating the sheer luxury of not having to wait. He becomes a host performing success, guiding his family around the apartment as if it's a museum exhibit dedicated to his own rise. Louise, meanwhile, tries to enjoy it but keeps thinking about the invisible cost. Will she be happy here, surrounded by people who don't say hello, people who act like perfect strangers because that's what class looks like? The first neighbor answers that question in the strangest way possible. Harry Bentley, an Englishman with stiff politeness and unexpected warmth, walks in and talks like the building itself sent a greeting card. He's friendly to an almost uncomfortable degree. He's also odd. Before anyone can even settle into normal conversation, Bentley asks George for a favor that turns into a bizarre little ritual. He wants George to walk on his back to relieve pain. It's awkward, intimate, and hilarious in the way only a completely unexpected request can be. George is bewildered, suspicious, and, because he doesn't want to look ignorant, he goes along. And suddenly Louise sees the first crack in George's armor. Her tough, proud husband is being turned into somebody's improvised therapy device on day one in the new building. George's reaction isn't gratitude, it's annoyance. Not because Bentley did anything truly harmful, but because Bentley represents something George can't control. The new world is strange, and the people in it don't behave according to George's playbook. Bentley is polite, cheerful, and physically affectionate in a way George finds threatening. Bentley doesn't just shake hands, he hugs. He doesn't just visit, he lingers. He doesn't just say hello, he makes himself comfortable. Louise thinks Bentley is charming. George thinks Bentley is dangerous. Dangerous to George's ego, dangerous to George's sense of boundaries. Dangerous because friendliness can feel like invasion when you're determined to stay on top. Then the situation escalates into the one thing George can't tolerate: surprise family proximity. Lionel's girlfriend Jenny has parents George already dislikes, and he's been counting on distance to keep those relationships manageable. But the Willises don't believe in distance. They arrive with smiles and open arms and the assumption that being connected means being present. And when George discovers the Willises live in the same building, right upstairs, his face turns into a storm. What makes George's spiral so intense is that it's not purely about prejudice. It's also about control. He had a vision of his rise, and in that vision, he got to choose which parts of his old life came along for the ride. The Willises living above him makes him feel like he can't escape anything. Not the past, not the complications of his son's relationship, not the social discomfort of having to play nice with people he doesn't want to play nice with. He reacts the way Archie often reacts: loud, insulting, and convinced that volume equals authority. He demands people move. He threatens to move himself. He talks about leases like they're suggestions, not contracts. He tries to make everyone else responsible for his discomfort, because facing his own discomfort would mean admitting he's scared. And then, in a perfectly timed comic twist, the very thing George thought would free him, moving up, becomes the thing that traps him. Because this building isn't just full of strangers. It's full of opportunity. Bentley casually mentions riding the elevator with Henry Whittendale, a man connected to the bank George wants access to. Suddenly, George's entire emotional map changes in seconds. He goes from "we're moving out" to "unpack right now," because George's priorities are always anchored to the next advantage. He can tolerate awkward neighbors if they lead to powerful elevator conversations. He can tolerate the Willises if his business dreams are close enough to touch. In that moment, Louise sees the truth. George doesn't just chase comfort. He chases status. And status can make him reverse himself faster than any argument ever could. The story then pivots into the Bunker household, where Gloria and Michael are experimenting with something that sounds modern, reasonable, and completely incompatible with Archie's personality: fair fighting. Gloria believes couples should schedule arguments, follow rules, avoid personal attacks, and finish the conflict cleanly so resentment doesn't pile up. To Archie, this sounds like nonsense. To Edith, it sounds like hope, because Edith has spent years swallowing irritation until it turns into quiet sadness. The immediate spark is simple. Edith wants to host visiting relatives, and Archie refuses. In the past, Edith would surrender. Gloria pushes her to stand up, to speak her feelings, to treat marriage like a two-way street rather than a one-man command center. Edith tries. It's brave in the way ordinary bravery is. Not heroic speeches, just a woman deciding she's allowed to want something. Archie responds with the same pattern he always uses. He closes the case, declares the discussion over, and expects obedience. But because Gloria and Michael have been coaching Edith, Edith doesn't fold immediately. She calls a foul when Archie insults her. She tries to keep the argument inside the rules. And the Bunker living room becomes a battlefield between old-school authority and a new idea: that a marriage can survive conflict better if both people are allowed to speak. There's comedy in Archie trying to use the rules as weapons, and there's something oddly moving in Edith's first attempts to hold her ground. Archie tries to escape into the kitchen as if physical distance can end emotional accountability. Gloria calls it what it is: avoidance. Archie tries to threaten leaving, then realizes the fair fight logic means he can't just run. Even when Edith wins a moment, like claiming she'll sleep on the couch, there's still a sense that Archie's habits are so deeply carved that change is hard to hold on to. And then, just when it seems like Edith might finally be carving a new shape into their marriage, the universe plays its cruelest joke. The relatives cancel and Archie becomes generous. Edith thinks the experiment worked. She thinks the new approach softened him. The house warms. Archie even offers a sweet gesture: food, comfort, a late-night peace. It feels like progress. Until Edith learns the relatives can come another week, and Archie's true reaction explodes out instantly. The new Archie vanishes. The old Archie returns, proving a painful point. Sometimes people are only flexible when the outcome already favors them. Next, another couple arrives as a contrast mirror: Amelia and Russell, shiny on the outside, glamorous with their vacations and gifts and polished talk. Russell brags about costs, about hotels, about looking younger, about success. Archie pretends he doesn't care, but you can feel the jealousy in every sarcastic remark. Edith, meanwhile, looks at Amelia and sees romance, pet names, public affection, perfect marriage. But the private truth is brutal. Amelia confesses she's lonely, anxious, and terrified she's losing Russell. The romance language is a costume. Russell is barely home. He chases younger attention. Amelia tried to fix herself to keep him, and it didn't heal the emptiness. The scene lands with a sting because it reveals how easily appearances can fool everyone, even kind people like Edith. Archie, on his side of the day, meets Russell's arrogance head-on. Russell treats money like permission to behave badly. He talks as if loyalty is optional once you can afford the consequences. Archie doesn't admire it. He's disgusted, partly moral, partly protective, partly because he doesn't want Edith believing that rich romance is the real standard. Archie may be rude, but in his own stubborn way, he values the idea of being stuck with Edith, and he doesn't see that as tragedy. He sees it as loyalty. Ironically, that loyalty becomes Archie's one genuinely strong argument, even if he delivers it in the clumsiest possible way. Finally, the conflict zooms in on everyday ethics. Archie brings home supplies from work. First nails, then a drill, insisting it's not stealing, it's borrowing, it's normal, it's what workers deserve. Michael argues back. Wrong is wrong. Gloria admits she's rationalized small things too. The family starts to see how easy it is to justify wrongdoing when it feels small or when the system feels unfair. Then Irene, Edith's friend, enters and becomes the moral mirror Archie can't stand. Irene isn't cruel. She's direct. She pushes Archie to call a spade a spade. Archie hates that, not just because it challenges him, but because it threatens him. If Irene talks at work, Archie could face consequences. Archie attempts an apology, but even his apology is tangled in self-interest. He tries to make peace while also suggesting a quiet deal of mutual silence. Irene sees through him. The argument turns into a messy, human debate about honesty and hypocrisy. And then, like a punchline delivered by the neighborhood itself, Archie's plywood gets stolen. The man who insisted he was the only honest person left is now yelling about living among thieves. It's funny, but it's also the final moral twist. Archie wants fairness from the world while giving himself exceptions. When the world treats him the way he treats it, he feels betrayed. That irony is the true theme running through all these stories. People demand clean rules when they're the ones being harmed, and they demand flexible rules when they're the ones benefiting. Across these episodes, everyone is trying to move up in some way. George chasing status, Edith chasing respect, Gloria and Michael chasing healthier conflict, Amelia chasing security, Archie chasing advantage without consequences. And the comedy keeps landing because the same truth keeps repeating. The higher people climb, the more their contradictions show. They want dignity, but fear vulnerability. They want love, but fear losing control. They want fairness, but keep bargaining with their own ethics. And in the middle of all that, the families stumble forward anyway, arguing, apologizing, relapsing, trying again, because even when they fail, they still keep showing up at the same table.